All right. Jonathan, do you want to kick this off real quick, since it's now 1:30 according to my watch?
Sure. Hi, everybody. First of all, this is amazing and exciting that we were able to do this and corral this so quickly. First want to thank Alan for taking the initiative on this. This was all him, and Sheri for being so generous to not only share her resources and her knowledge, but actually to literally share her Zoom platform and her membership with us. It's pretty amazing. I posted something on the MTEA Facebook group on Thursday, but not everybody who's in this room is necessarily a member or saw it. And I want to reiterate that as inconvenient as this all is for all of us as teachers, for some people in our community, it's beyond inconvenient. They're part of the gig economy. And so I want to encourage all of us to, whenever possible, as we're planning our lectures and how we're going to deliver our coursework to our students, to use our Broadway community, use our friends in New York who are part of the gig economy, who may be out of work for a while, and see if your school can offer them $200 or $300 to Skype in and do a session with you. And to that end, MTEA also is offering Sheri Sanders a stipend for her time and generosity today. She did not ask to be paid for this, but we feel like she needs to. And so I just wanted to start by saying that, like, let's help our community. Let's help our artists out, and let's figure this out together. So I'm going to shut up now and let Alan take over. I just wanted to thank you all for putting this together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan. This all came together within 2 days, and it's amazing to see how many people are joining us. And I just want to say, as someone who joined MTA much later than many of the people who are going to be speaking today, it's been such a great community online, and to be a part of, just where nothing is proprietary, that we're all just sharing our ideas and talking about them. And that's really what this is all about. So I do want to say, I know I said it in the Eventbrite, but we are recording this and we're going to make it public. So that means putting it on YouTube and putting it on the MTEA site. So by participating, you are officially, just disclaimer wise, you are saying that that's okay for this content to be online. So if not, please leave, and don't say anything that you don't want on the internet, because this will be on the internet for everybody. So yeah, just a couple quick things before Sheri takes over. Please feel free to message me in the chat directly, or message everyone if you have questions. Because we have over 150 people scheduled to join us, it'd be great if we try to have the one person speaking at a time thing. And I'm going to try to corral questions, because I'm sure many of us have the same ones. So feel free, as a presenter's talking, to just message me what those questions are. As we have time, we'll get through them. And we also have a Q&A half an hour at the end to do all of that. So let me know if you're having issues. You can just message me directly. Just a couple things you can, I've spotlighted myself, so hopefully you see my face right now, but there's a couple things where you can change the views. You can right click and spotlight a person, and Sheri's going to kind of go through that. So let me know if you have any questions, but let's turn it over to the amazing goddess, Sheri Sanders.
Oh, well, hi, everybody. What a wild time. Woo! So I'm excited about this because I've been online for 4 years. And so how wonderful that I get to actually sort of demystify all of this really, really quickly and make it easy for you to use. I have a little system that I've been using all this time, and it works like so fast and so easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually just show you the order in which, on how you set up a Zoom, like a meeting room. And that way you've got sort of a place that you and your students can always meet. It's always going to be the same, no matter when it is. And then what I'm going to do is just show you how to use the inside of this mechanism, record, just sort of use this in the way that it needs to be used. And then a way to kind of organize your class online, because the last thing that you're going to want to be doing is going sort of back and forth by email. So I'm just going to walk you through that stuff real fast. It seems to work really well for me. So let me just do a quick screen share. Okay, so this is inside of the Zoom meeting profile. I think everybody should be able to see it. And I'm like also very happy to see friends here. Just got me excited that there's a virtual room full of great people. So I think most of you have Zoom accounts through your universities. You can use my Zoom account until further notice. I upgraded it so that 10 different teachers could use my Zoom account. And it's a really great opportunity. So what I wanted to do is just show you really, really quickly how to sort of just set up a meeting. If you click on, get on this main, this will be sort of like a main, this is your sort of Zoom profile account. It's really simple. There's nothing fancy to tell you in here. Well, what you want to do is you want to set up a meeting. Now, I have a recurring meeting that I use, and I've used this recurring meeting since the beginning of time, so for 4 years, really easy. But what you want to do is you just want to set one up so that it's recurring. This is always the meeting and ID, and you can always just press start to start it. Now, the other cool thing is that you don't always have to go into Zoom to do that. I have a link that lives in several places, and I just click on it, and it takes me into the room. So just know that once this is set up, it's golden. Okay, everybody? So right now, we're in the MTEA Zoom teaching webinar. So we're in the middle of one right now. Recordings. Another cool thing to tell you here is that all your recordings live in here, so they all save, and I'll show you how to record them to the cloud. But for now, the thing that you need to know how to do is schedule a new meeting. This is how you can schedule a meeting, set it up. It's super easy, but like I said, just make one and use it for all your classes, all your privates, all your everything. Topic is my meeting. I don't have to put any of this in. This is all self-explanatory, I think, for everybody, right? You set up when it is, how long it is. I would put recurring meeting, okay? It recurs weekly. Again, this is on Mondays and Wednesdays. Again, this is just what you want to set up for yourself so everything's done and you just go ahead and make your class, and all you ever have to do is click on the link. You might want to say registration is required, just if that's going to help you keep track of your students. I never think we need a password. Let's just scratch that extra crap off. The other thing that I would say is in scrolling down, record the meeting automatically is always good, because who knows where you are. If it just automatically, as soon as you get in there, and if you're the host, it records it. And these are the things that I would just set up. Again, we're recording this right now, so you'll be able to go through, but this is how you set up a meeting, and you just make sure it's recurring. That way you have you have it and it's all set. Does this make sense to everybody so far? And does anybody have any questions about this part? Okay, great. I'm going to assume that this is cool because this is pretty clear to me. Oop, that was a boo-boo. Okay, here I am. Okay, then the next thing that I want to show you is getting back to, I'm going to stop the share for a second. Okay, now I just want to show everybody around the inside of this recording platform. Tina said, do you need the cloud for music? Not sure what that means, but I don't think so. I think if you have a recording device and you can have music on here, that's how I coach people, and I'll talk about that in 2 secs. But the things that I want to show everybody are, if you go to the upper right corner, there's this thing called gallery view or speaker view. So if you click on one or the other, like one of them makes us look like we're like the Brady Bunch on crack. And then the other one just kind of has me as the main focus, right? And so what naturally happens is whenever you're recording somebody, and it's their turn, it will naturally go from Brady Bunch to one person. So that's the cool news, but you're gonna have to navigate that, and I'm gonna walk everybody through that right now, okay? So, so say we're on gallery view, speaker view, okay? When you want somebody, so say we're gonna have a class, what I want you to do is, I want you to check out what should be on the bottom of your screen. On the bottom of your screen, you can see that there's invite, which means that if you want to invite somebody in, you can invite them by email. You can invite them right into your group. So say it's like, oh my God, there's a student who's late or a teacher who wants to come. You can invite them through there. Similarly, if you click on participants, you'll see everybody who's in here. And that is where you can see raise hand or mute me. So that's there too. Also, we're encouraging everybody that you should see on your own screen that there's like a little blue thing that comes up and you can, right? And then there's also a thing that might say mute my video, rename. There's things that it gives you opportunities to use. You could use all of those. You could figure that out on your own time. But now let's talk about recording. So in order to record your class, you have an option. If you see record, there is a record button, and you click on it, it offers you an option to record to the cloud or to record to your computer. I prefer the cloud because it's easier to share when you record it to the cloud. Also because you can see everything that we have in the chat, it records to the cloud. So I just feel like the cloud's the way to go, and then it records to the inside of Zoom. So you know that your meetings could be inside my Zoom and your meetings could be inside of your Zoom. Is everybody following me so far? We're just showing you around the inner terrain here. So you can invite people. The participants, you know who's here. You can mute them, unmute them. You could go in, you could raise your hand. Share screen is always great because that's what I did. So if you want to show your students something, which I'll do with Gwen, I'll show you this share screen. It's really easy. The chat, we've got the side. I encourage you to record to the cloud. Now, you'll also notice that there are opportunities or times where you might be able to record another artist's work. Hold on, Brett's asking a question. Do we need to set up something on the cloud before utilizing recording it to the cloud, or will it happen automatically if we choose it? So if you're a part of a Zoom account, the cloud lives in the Zoom account. So that means when you go to the Zoom sort of home page, your recording will live there. Yeah, it's kind of beautiful, actually. You don't have to worry about anything. That's why I think it's great to record it to the cloud, because everything just shows up inside Zoom. So the one thing that I want to share here is there is a world where you could record each person's individual session. And so, for example, if I wanted to, I'm not the host right this second, Alan is, but there is a world where you could say, record me or record session, and you could record each person's individual session if you're teaching in a group. It is supposed to download to their computer. I have yet to have that be a consistent thing. So I would just say always record this and always encourage somebody to remind you to record because we're busy. So the last thing that I want to share is, there's two more things I want to share. We know that you know how to make a meeting. We know that inside of this is how you navigate the group, and that there's speaker view, and then there's also gallery view. And that we have the chat group, which is essential. Those things I think keep it the most bare bones. The two other things that I want to share are how I best use, because I've been working with people in this space so much that the two things that I want to say are, if you could have the music on a recording device, and that they use the camera, you know, that is how we want to do that. But what we want to do is we want to get them off of being an auditioner on an X in a camera, and we want people using their space, because the one thing that I feel is that when people are in their own space and using their own space in a creative way, it makes them more comfortable and it makes them make more choices. So that's why whenever I'm doing like the 80s, I have people make if they're being the slutty girl on the hood of the car, I have them up on their bed and filming it, you know, with the camera up over here. So it's a really, really great way to invite people to use. No, they always play the music. And Joe, this is the big thing. For me with pop rock stuff, we have the free music notes app. There's Accompanist, which has free, they're giving like a free 30-day trial. Everybody who is performing should have the music on their side. That to me gets them in real time and is able to get you to listen. And so if you can get them to put their music on their phone, that's the best move. Hold on one second, I just gotta get this. Hey, you can send her.
Just to say, while Sheri is doing that, that really goes for any type of music making, right? So if you have if you're doing a vocalese, it's always better to send tracks in advance and have them play it either from their computer or a speaker. So you can't play it on your side and get them to sync up. It just doesn't work.
No, and a lot of people have really tried to make that work, and it's just too hard to finesse. But you could hear them really well with good accompaniment on their phone. Oh, Amanda is sharing her Google Drive of 60 plus. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we could make this music accessible to them and they've got it on their side, they can hear it. And great. And thank you for that. It has to be, yeah, it has to be on this side. I'm going to show everybody one more quick thing, if that's okay. And then I'm going to pass it over. And Amanda, that's so generous. I'm just going to do a screen share to my desktop one more time, because I want to just show you a shortcut that has been super helpful for me. I think you should be able to see this right now. This is my current teacher training. So this is the group right now of teachers that I'm training. We do all of our communicating inside of this. It saves the emails back and forth, and it helps. Sorry, I don't know why this is being so fussy. There we go. But inside of this group, it goes all of our communication. And that way, I hate Facebook. I don't know why she's being sluggish, but you get it. Inside of here is just how we communicate, how I share information. I share Spotify playlists. I share things in this particular group, which is being so fussy. But I think the best thing to do is to always have one central place for everybody to communicate in. So when we have everybody communicating in one place, it's like you get an alert every time there's something there, and everybody can communicate with each other in this private place. While, yeah, Google Classroom is fine too. I just really, really, really encourage that there's one centrally located place that everybody can get alerts and everybody can communicate with, and it really just makes it so cohesive. And so, yeah, I am talking about a Facebook group. Yep. I don't use Canvas, but if anybody uses that kind of a platform, I think it's great. But it's just because everybody is kind of naturally on Facebook. It's just a great way to kind of share content. And it's the way that I've been sharing content all these years, and it just seems to be super convenient and really easy. So if you use that and this, and you record, it can kind of like save time and energy. And I think that that's it. That's sort of everything that I want to contribute. And if anybody has any questions about anything at all, just ask me. I'm totally available to everyone. And thank you. I don't even need money, but I did take $10 off my book. So if your students want to read it right now while they have to be at home, I just discounted it for everybody so people can grow while they're sitting here. What am I feeling about mics? Matt, we don't need mics. We don't need it. We don't need it. The sound is fantastic on this platform. It works really, really great. And I think that people have to learn how to make sounds and have qualities without mics. Also, as a pianist, if you need me to record any scale, oh, this is great, Amanda. Clipping. Hi, Joy. Clipping when people sing really loud. Joy, I don't know what clipping means. And then I want to pass it along.
It would be like overloading the circuit. So you should really tell them, A, don't sing too loud, but also maybe back up a little bit from your computer.
Yeah, or just volume system preferences.
Yeah, I would say we want them far enough back that we could actually see the function of their body, or we could see them dance, that we could see different things. Use their phones for playback and recording themselves. Yeah, they would need two separate devices going, but this is the last thing that I would say is that what you should do is have them record their work that they do in their apartment for their self-taping, because that's the last thing I was going to say is people are looking for, their self-tapings, they want to see an animal in their natural environment. It just interests them more than the curtain. You can just input volume into the system preferences, sound and lower it a little bit. Yeah, it just isn't really anything that happens on this system. It doesn't get overloaded like that. So I guess that's good. Yeah, who's got this answer for Kayla? I mean, music
Kayla,
notes is
So I'll make a list of all of the resources that we discussed today during this, and I'll share it with everybody and put it on our Facebook and share it as well. There are many different resources that you can use, and I have some that I've shared with my students in the past. But I'll put all the suggestions that were here together. As Sheri said, Accompanist is really great, and they have that is
30 days.
Yeah, it's only on Apple devices, but there's another website called Piano Tracks with an X. And many other sources that you can do that. In general, what I'd say for songs, there's also many tracks on Spotify and other music sources like that. So the first thing, especially given everything that's going on, would be to say, try to locate one online. And then if you still need an accompaniment track, then you can ask your teacher for it. But as opposed for us having to churn all this stuff out right now.
Does anybody else have any questions for me before we pass it over? Does everybody feel like they understand sort of like the simple basics on how to make this thing run? So you just got a meeting classroom, you know how to record it, you know how to kind of keep track of people? Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Alan. Who am I passing it over to?
I can take it for a second. So there's a couple questions here that we can just read real quick. Yes, YouTube also has a pretty decent amount of tracks, as well as Apple Music and Spotify. And most students can get Spotify for very, very cheap or free. So that is a really good one to use. And then, yes, there's also Accompanist Connections, a Facebook group where I know a lot of people are looking for work right now. So you can say, hey, I need a track for this, and then pay them some money to do that, as well as transpositions. That's a very active Facebook group that I think people should join. Yes, I'm reading the Singers Musical Theater Anthology books have accompaniment CDs. Those are helpful, and sometimes your library has them as well. So you can email your librarians and say, please send me this digitally, because we can't be in the library. That's a great thing to use as well.
I'm just answering a question from Kelsey, putting a spotlight on certain people. Maybe I missed it, but how do you do that? So only the host can do that. And it's really simple. When you are the host, you have an opportunity to click on that blue thing and you press on it, and it should say, make this person the spotlight video, and it should allow that.
Yeah, I can share my screen real quick and show that for people.
Doing that? That would be awesome. Thank
Sure.
you.
So, okay. And all of a sudden my host thing went away. That's strange. Let me try it again. One sec.
Oh yeah, that's great. Let's show how to share screen as well. So
yeah, for some reason that's not letting me do that.
Oh, here, I can do it.
Yeah,
hold on.
You try.
I might have to switch it back over to you. So if you press the word share on the very, very bottom, can everybody hear me? I think so, right?
Yes.
If you share, then it should say, what do you want to share? And then you can click on it, and then it shares. So, and then on the top, you should be able to, it should give you a clue as to whether you want to stop share or continue to share. So it kind of gives you, can everybody see this up on top? I don't know if you can. Probably not, right? What else am I sharing? Can anybody tell me what else I was supposed to be looking for?
Oh, so I think what's happening is you can't share your presenter screen, but so that's the trick. It's blacking it out. But when you are a host, you can, there's a little like 3 blue dots, and there's a thing where you can say pin the video, spotlight the video, all of that. So you have control over that when you're hosting.
Who else has a question?
Tim said, does share include sound on a video? Yes. So when you go to share, this is a really great thing. So let's say you wanted to like play a YouTube video. When you go to share your screen, you can say share computer audio. There's a little click box that you can do that. You can also share individual apps. So let's say you have something sensitive on your desktop and you don't want to share your full desktop. You can share individual apps only. You can also share from your iPhone or iPad, which is helpful. And then there's a whiteboard function too, so you can share and collaboratively draw, and you can also annotate. So let's say you're showing, like Sheri right now is sharing her music notes. She could click annotate and then draw on the internet, draw on that website. You can. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Look at it!
That was beautiful, Sheri.
Oh my God, I'm a child.
Okay, so Tina's asking me to say that all again. I will do that. So you can share many different things. You can share your desktop. You can share individual application screens. So let's say you have a web browser open. You could share only that. Right now, Sheri is sharing her desktop so you can see the clock at the top. You can also, there's a function called whiteboard where you can have just a white screen that you can draw on. Then you can also share from your iPhone or iPad. So let's say you had an app that you wanted to show people visually how to use, you can do that as well. Whiteboard is in the share menu, Tina. So let's just answer a couple more questions, Sheri, maybe?
Sure, if anybody else wants anything from me before we go on to another person. Who else has questions for me? Because we've got a bunch of new, can we share content from a DVD? Yeah, I mean, the thing is that you can share anything on this. And just by using the share screen. Gina's question is important. Let me find it. Does anyone know if Zoom will work with live accompaniment? I don't, yeah, I have to agree with everybody. Everybody's tried it. It doesn't work. The timing just is off. So that's why we just got to leave it to the person who's singing and that we hear what we hear. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I can share with you because I want to just give you the basics. I know we have a lot of people who want to share some fun things. I saw somewhere that students can break out into pairs for scene work. I do want to tell you that Zoom on, the only reason why I prefer Zoom on a laptop is because on an iPad, if somebody wanted to record their own session, you can't. An iPad won't let you do that for some reason. Yeah, here's what I want to tell you, and then I think we should move on to who's up first to share details and ideas of teaching.
Gwen is up next.
Oh, great. Okay, and then I'm going to bring up the Google Doc for Gwen. What I do want to say is that there are incredible, intimate details that come from being on camera and having people working on camera because the acting is camera size now. So I think it's just a great opportunity for them to learn how to use a camera and not give a broad sort of up here audition. Okay, I'm gonna get, where's Gwen? Can you make Gwen the focus?
I will. I'm
gonna get Gwen's,
I'm gonna do that. Yeah, absolutely. So just real quick, someone was asking me to take a screenshot. So this is what the share window looks like. So when you click share, perfect. You can select whiteboard, your iPhone or iPad, any different application windows, things like that. Okay. All right. I'm going to, as Gwen's talking, I'm going to sort of compile some of these questions and we'll work through them later. Okay. Great. Let me stop sharing here and then.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yes. I'm getting over a terrible case of laryngitis, so I'll try to speak so I can be heard. Hi, thanks for doing this, everybody. This is super awesome. Super awesome. Sheri, I think I can share it from here, babe. I didn't think I could share if I wasn't the host because I've never not been the host. So let me try. And
try it. If not, I have it ready to go.
You are awesome. I just, because I'm an academic, I created a document, you know, like we did.
Yeah, of course. You're amazing.
Can y'all see this?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just threw together 21 tips. People have been calling me, and it's so great that we can be here for each other in this time. And I want to say before I start that everybody is going to disagree about the tiny little details. Like maybe you like headphones, maybe you don't like headphones, maybe you like a microphone, maybe you don't like a microphone. Your job is to just kind of figure out what works for you best when you're teaching online. So it's completely up to you. Please don't take anything I say as a like, you must do the following things. I'm no boss, right, of anything or anyone. So, but I just thought I would create this for you, and we could just go through it one by one. I am not seeing, when I screen share, somebody help me on this. I don't see the chat. It's gone from my window.
Let me try this. I don't know if this
I got it.
helps you.
I got it. I figured.
Got it?
I got it. I just want to make sure I can answer people's questions.
No problem.
So if I'm just going to read these, and as questions come up, you ask me, or if discussion comes up, let's discuss. If you're new to teaching online, try offering some free or discounted lessons to students who know and love you, so you can get your sea legs and play around. It's what I did. I offered like, I don't know, 10 free lessons to people for 20 bucks or something. And then I figured out the platform while we played together, and they thought there was value in it. There was certainly value in it for me. So that's something you can do to just kind of get started. I put in a whole bunch of really basic things, like ask your student to plug in their device before the lesson begins, and position it so that you can see most of them. I often teach like this, so you can see just from my shoulders up. But when I'm teaching a student, and Sheri, I know will agree, I have to see most of their body. And so they need to be in a position where that's possible. And you don't want to go hunting for a cord in the middle of a lesson because you run out of power. And the same applies to you. You should plug in your device before you begin, and you should have the lighting you want, and have any documents you want to share, any of the video, audio stuff that you want to get cleared up. Get it cleared up before the lesson starts, so you're not hunting for something in the middle of somebody's lesson that they paid for. People have been asking me about whether FaceTime or Skype or Zoom is the best. I teach on all three, depending on where people are and the accessibility of these platforms, but I love Zoom the most because of all the different features that it offers. The most important one is that it's cross-platform, meaning that it works equally well on phones and computers and Android and Apple devices. So anybody who's got anything anywhere can use Zoom. And so that's really, really great. Be prepared to be patient with technology. Things can get glitchy, and everybody having a light attitude and a sense of humor about it is really imperative. You saw that Sheri had a little glitch there in the middle, and she did a little hum thing, and that was classic. Like, yes, do that. Play around and have fun. Don't stress about it. If you stress, your student will stress. And also be ready to switch platforms. If the student is somewhere where they have connectivity issues, oftentimes FaceTime will work better for you than Zoom. So just be ready to switch platforms, and tell the student that before the lesson. Say, if things get crazy, I'll connect with you on here, right? This is an Alexander Technique teacher thing to say, but mirror neurons are a thing. Your students absorb your energy. So if you're calm and easy, your student will be calm and easy, right? Moving around a lot and moving really quickly while you're teaching can be really distracting and discomforting for your students. I don't mean stand still. I just mean, don't dance around like a crazy person. And listen, don't discount or undersell your lessons online. Your knowledge is always valuable. And frankly, I notice different things in person than I do online, and different things online than I do in person. And they're both super, super valuable to your students. If you undersell them, right, then you're getting underpaid for them. And it may be where we're going mostly, right? So don't undersell them. They're totally valuable, just as valuable as in-person lessons. But don't try to make them the same as in-person lessons, because they're not, right? So just kind of feel that out on your own and see where you get with that. They are a completely different animal, and you'll feel the pace of it and the change of it when you're teaching online. But just be patient with that, and don't try to replicate the in-studio lesson. It won't be helpful to anybody. Look at the camera light on the top of your screen, that little green dot, while you're teaching, and not at your picture of yourself. Eye contact is imperative in lessons, and if you spend the lesson looking at yourself, it's very difficult not to, because we are, humans, and we're like, oh, there's a mirror. Let me look at myself. Yeah, so don't look at yourself. Look at them, and looking at them is looking at the camera, right? They're the focus of the lesson. And this is much harder to do than you may realize if you've not taught online. I try to put my laptop on the side of my piano where the student usually stands when they're in my studio. So for example, I teach to the right. So my students are always standing on my right when they're with me. So when I am doing a Zoom lesson, an online lesson, I put my computer there so they can see me from the same angle that they see me when we're in person. It just makes it more familiar and makes it easier for them to relate to me. Make sure that you and your student are looking at the same PDF of the music. If you're gonna look at the music, I often screen share and pop over to a Google Doc that I have about exercises or about breathing or whatever. And if you pop over to the music and you're both looking at different copies of the music, there can be discrepancies, right? And most of the students get their music off of some like Scribd or something. And so they may not be looking at the same key even as you are. So just make sure beforehand that you're both, I find that just emailing my students a PDF of the music that we're going to be working on, or having them email me a PDF before the lesson, is really beneficial. I can barely see the chat window, so I'm just going to move it over so in case anybody has any questions. Oh, thank you, Miss Sheri. Back at you, woman. Okay, so to headphone or not to headphone? I love headphones and like my students to use them as well, but if they're standing up doing a performance, they can't have headphones in. So take them out, everybody take them out. So I either have them in for the vocalizing and then take them out when the singing of the song begins. I hear a little bit better on the headphones, but I also use them and don't use them sort of intermittently, completely up to you. It's super easy to look at music together on Zoom. Sheri showed you how to do the share screen thing. And here's a little private note for teachers. Close all the windows and close everything on your laptop that you don't want your students to see before you teach the lesson. Because there may be things up there that are private emails or whatever, and then you just go to share the screen and they see that you just gave them a C in their class and you're telling the chair about their behavior, whatever. Just don't close everything except what you want to share, so that when you go to share screen, that it doesn't happen to you. Let's see. When you're in share screen and looking at a document of music, if you hover your mouse over the screen, an annotate cursor will come up. Can you see mine? Yeah, so like if I hover up here, I get an annotate, right? And I can just say, I'm gonna draw. And then I say, I really want you to pay attention to that, right? I think Sheri talked about that before. Yeah, so just knowing that that exists, there's all sorts of tools here to use. You can put in a text box, you can select a bunch of text, you can highlight, see what I mean? Yeah, I'm gonna close that. All sound must come from the singer side of the conversation while they're singing. So they need to have accompanist tracks on their end. Many questions came up for Sheri about that. If you try to have accompaniment on your end, it's going to block out their microphone. There'll be distortion. And there's a whole bunch of different things I wanted to say about this. So I had like a big breakout down here. I'm going to make this document available to everyone, by the way. I'm not just sharing it here for 2 seconds. How do I make that disappear? Annotate, eraser. There we go. Cool. Yeah. So optimally, the singer needs to have a separate device upon which to play their accompaniment. If they try to play their accompaniment on the computer that they are doing their Zoom chat with you on, distortion can happen. The sound may be a little bit off. You absolutely don't want that. So if they're talking to you on Zoom, they should have their accompaniment on their phone, or vice versa, right? Accompanist is the bomb. It's already come up. They're giving a 30-day free trial, already come up. Thank you to the creators of that. That's totally awesome. I'm closing this again. If you don't know about it, it's an app that plays the accompaniment to most musical theater, classical repertoire pieces, and you can pick your key, tempo, use fermati, whatever. It's just really flexible and really great. And it is free for them starting March 15th, tomorrow, for 30 days. And then after that, it's $9.99 a month, which is such a bargain for musical theater platform only, or $9.99 a month for classical platform only, or $14.99 a month for both. And if you subscribe for a year, you get 20% off. That's what I do. Because everybody knows piano and me. And so you find many reputable accompaniments online on YouTube. Just make sure you take the time to select one that for your student and send the link to them in advance, so they're not using some, cheesy electronic one that is inaccurate musically. If you play piano well, you can record and send an accompaniment to your student in advance. If you don't, use Accompanist, use YouTube, use Spotify, and you can have an accompanist record songs for you. Please employ those out-of-work accompanist. Yeah, somebody said, yeah, Accompanist already made 30-day free access available. Oh, as of last night. Great, good to know. Thank you, James. Awesome. If it's really easy to track accompaniments. So I saw somebody say that, you could listen to it beforehand, and you don't need to do that. When somebody starts to sing, right, you just look at you look at your clock and have the seconds mapped out until you just note for yourself, like at 1 minute and 13 seconds, that's when the second verse started, or that's when the chorus begins, or there's the bridge, so that when you want to go back, you can say, hey, reverse your music to 113 and let's start again. Just tracking that one time through will just be really easy for you to use an accompaniment on their end. Pro tip from Amanda Wansa Morgan. So many pro tips from Amanda Wansa Morgan this morning. Pro tip, if there's a huge fermata, caesura in the song, have the accompanist split it into 2 tracks, or each student how to splice in Audacity, or teach the student how to splice in Audacity. Thank you, Amanda. If the student's accompaniment isn't loud enough, they can use a Bluetooth speaker on their end. I have rarely, if ever, found that to be a problem, but when all else fails, use a coffee mug, right? Stick your phone in a coffee mug and people can hear you, voice teacher hacks. So when you're playing warm-ups, it's best to establish a pattern, especially intricate ones. If you're not just doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Play it at the beginning and then play starting notes and let them go. If you try to play over top of them, the condenser microphones will cut each other out and you won't hear what they're doing. And it's really great because when you play for them in in-person lessons, you might not notice that they have an ear training or intonation issue that you notice when you're not playing the notes with them. So it's just another way that online learning is different, and in some ways it addresses some issues that you may not address otherwise. Let's see. So have a pattern for how you're going to work through songs. So like we don't want to start, vocalize and then start with let's sing through the whole song, right? I like to say, okay, let's go to the part where you had trouble the last time, or where are you having difficulty in the song? Let's look at that together before we start playing the accompaniment and do that. And so we start where they have difficulty, and then we talk about the technical aspects to correct before we even begin singing with the accompaniment. And then we may pull up the PDF and talk about the musical things that we want to accomplish. And then we may talk about dramatic circumstance and objective and subtext and all that happy stuff, and marry that to the musical things that we want to do, and then begin using the accompaniment track. Yeah, so that you're not just having to stop and start and stop and start. And here's where I get a little controversial. I have a Blue Yeti Studio Blackout microphone that I really like, and I think it helps my students hear me better as a voice teacher. So we are so intricate and intimate in what we do as voice teachers, and I may be making a color difference that's very difficult to discern. So I find that having a good microphone on my end is better for voice teaching. I don't think it's necessary if you're not a voice teacher. I may be wrong. Anybody feel free to correct me on that. Miss Mandy said, do you have experience with more than one student at a time? Is it even possible for them to sing together? I assume that would not work. I'm throwing that to Sheri. I do not. Miss Sheri, do you? She's not there. Huh. I'll circle back to that question, I promise. And we'll ask Miss Sheri. I always am teaching just one person. Miss Sheri, Mandy wants to know if people can sing together on Zoom. Unmute yourself, baby. Yeah.
Just did, thank you. In separate places?
Yeah, I would guess.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We can do the best we can, but this idea of people being able to sync up music and voice, or voice and voice, is just not up to par.
Yep.
They haven't been able to figure that out yet. So as much as I feel like they should, it's just one of those things that you can get close, but no cigar.
Yeah. That's what I suspected the answer would be. Thank you, Ms. Sheri. So
yeah.
this may sound really crazy, but make sure that all these things are not distracting. What you're wearing, some like stripes and patterns can make the video like appear to shake. That's really distracting. So you can see Ms. Sheri and I both have black on, and just like low key on what you're wearing, so that the focus is on my face and what I'm saying. The video background, yeah, everybody here has, you know, mixed backgrounds, right? It's totally fine. Just make sure it's not something that's really distracting from what you're doing. And lighting, you can care about this, you can not care about this. I'm just fixing the formatting on this for 2 seconds. If you buy daylight bulbs instead of the soft light LED bulbs, they make you look like a human being. The daylight bulbs make you look yellow. So if you care about that, then you have to get you have to have a green screen for virtual background. I actually think that Zoom has virtual backgrounds, Ray. I was going to talk about that in a sec, but yes, you have to have a green screen for virtual backgrounds, but not. Is that true for the Zoom virtual backgrounds? Who knows? Anyone? We'll get an answer on that, but I think you don't. I think you don't need one for Zoom. I think they'll just stick one up behind you. Remember that the student can and should move around. Sheri talked about this. I talked about this. If you can't see them in the shot, just ask them to back up. You never want them bending over to try to make themselves seen. And the more of them you can see in your teaching, the better, the more information you have to coach them on. Familiarize yourself with a couple quick troubleshooting tips for when things go wrong. They will. Things go wrong. Okay, Alan put a virtual background behind him. Alan, talk about that.
I did. So I just went to San Francisco. It's very exciting. So if you click on preferences, I'm on the desktop app, then you can download a virtual background and make that. And there's a little checkbox that says, I have a green screen or I don't. And it's smart enough to kind of figure it out. So
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's cool. I can't do it. My system isn't up to date enough. I tried earlier to play around with that, and it said you have to upgrade your system before you can do that. So, but it's cool. You can have a Hogwarts castle, I understand. It's super cool. So I would love to be teaching in Hogwarts right now. So a couple of the troubleshooting things that I like to know about, or like, how can you help somebody when their microphone isn't on? Right? How do you turn yours on? Figure it out. How do you turn it on in Zoom and in Skype and in FaceTime? And how can you tell somebody how to do that? And then also on their computer, like sometimes there are sound settings in the preferences on their computer that you can lead them through. So just look at those things yourself and try to figure them out yourself, or maybe with a buddy or one of those students that you are teaching for a discount, and just try to figure out what that is. It's super helpful. We've been doing a lot of Zoom interviews at Penn State this semester, and my tiny bit of knowledge about how to fix these little problems has been really big in our meetings to help connectivity issues and sound issues. And I don't know very much, right? But I do know a couple things to say to somebody whose sound isn't working. And I know a couple things to say to somebody when their internet is glitchy. So just all you have to do is go to YouTube and say, what do I do if I can't hear myself on Zoom? And you'll come up with 10 different solutions. So that's good to do live too. If you are flummoxed, just go to YouTube or Google and say, how do I fix this? And they'll tell you right away. Be flexible. So finally, ask your students to watch you when they're singing, so that you can control when they stop, because they too get sucked into watching that mirror of themselves, and they may not notice that you would like them to stop, and they've got the accompaniment and they're jamming out, and you're like, hey, hey, hey. Right? So just ask them to watch the box that you're in, and maybe make the box that you're in bigger when they're singing a song, so that you can communicate with them. And I don't know about you, but I have lots of hand signals that I use with my students with no words all the time, not just the stop one, but I have a million, right? Like, so like they can watch me and then get physical cues from me without me stopping the whole video process. So I'm going to make this available via Google Docs. And what I'm going to do is stick my email up here right now. And if you email me and say, I want it, I will share it to you. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to be here for my community. And I thank you, Alan, for putting this all together. And thank you, Ms. Sheri, for hosting. And I'm out.
Thank you, Gwen. That was awesome. So yeah, I don't. If you want to put the Gwen, if you want to put the sharing link in the chat, then people can have that too.
Yep.
And we have about 10 minutes or so before we had scheduled to move on. Sheri, I'm going to ask you to just follow up anything that you have about solo song coaching, any tips that you have for coaching someone in this platform online. And know, everyone, that I've tracked a list of questions that we need to circle back to. We'll definitely get to them, but I want to make sure that we try to stay on schedule. So Sheri, what pieces of advice can you give us about coaching songs, especially solos, in this environment?
Could you quickly make me the spotlight video?
Done.
You know, I just have to say, the more you get them out of the rigidity of the and I'm not saying that any of you are rigid, of course you aren't, but the space offers so much. Singing on your bed, laying on your bed, having emotions while you're performing brings things out. So to me, it's just using the space they're in, an animal in their natural habitat, with a recording device here that could, you could get them off of the X and facing forward and using the space as a person. That seems to sort of teach them a combination of how to be a person in a space once they get, and performing while they're working on their voice, and also just using the support of their natural habitat to make them feel their creature comforts. I just think those things have just provided over and over again really, really interesting content for me to play with and train people on. Okay, Kelsey said I was access denied from the Google document. So I think we might have to make that more accessible. But no, just have them use their space, have them do numbers, doing dishes in the kitchen, have them doing things like real people do in their own habitat, and it teaches them how to be a person and sing. It's a fun opportunity. That's the only thing I'd want to say.
Great.
It's a gift. Yeah, I think it's been a gift for me. And it will be for you too once you get the swing of it, I promise. And again, any questions for me, you know how to find me.
Sheri, just one quick question. How do you work with feedback, right? So you have a group who's all live coming in, and you have one person sing a session at a time and the other people are watching. How do you sort of moderate that or control the feedback when there's many people participating?
That's such a great question. I ask everybody to comment in the chats while this person is singing. Everybody give their feedback. Everybody say everything. And then what I'll do is I'll call off and be like, oh my God, Jonathan Flom said, you're fierce. Hannah said, loved it, girl. Kayla wants a little bit more growl on the bottom. Isn't that funny? So then what I'll do is I'll be the one that says what people say. And then if I want to focus in on something in particular that somebody said or hone in on something, I grab it. And it keeps me it keeps everybody commenting and contributing, but still keeps me in the leadership position.
Great.
So you give them that chat to express themselves in. They can hoop and holler in there.
Great. So there was a really interesting question that I think is useful about working with younger students, any issues of privacy, like your high school age students, if you're in day clothes and if they're properly clothed, and also if it's a more public place rather than a bedroom. I have read about this a little bit. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on it. In general, I think that's an important thing to just talk about. What are your expectations for this class? What do you need to wear? Are you chatting? Are you multitasking? Or are you present in the class is a big thing. Keeping the door open, things like that, because there are some privacy issues, and depending on what age they are, different privacy things will be different. So make sure that, there's a lot of information online about what is appropriate in that way too. Sheri, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I would say it is up to the discretion of the person who's teaching a class. You know, for example, so if I'm teaching a class on disco, I want everybody to dress up like they're like they're me, in my clothes. um, but I think if you want to have an amount of decorum, like you are in class, so please don't come in your pajamas. You know, please come dressed to work. Please clean your space. You know, we are professionals and we are still maintaining a professional environment. So I would say that, yeah, there is a certain amount that they should come prepared to be professional with professionals. But then, you know, if I'm teaching teachers, I'll be like, okay, you don't have to wear any pants. I'm not looking, you know, but if it's kids, yes, of course. Yes. If you're training.
I try to teach kids in common spaces so that they're not like, their tendency would be to go in their bedroom and say, I'm going to sing in here. But I say, go in the living room and sing in front of everybody so that you're not teaching them like alone, you know, just if they're under 18. If they're under 18.
Yes, that's beautiful. In the living room.
Yeah, sure. Or somewhere where there are other people so that it's not just you and them, just as a safety thing.
Sure. There's been several questions about privacy and chat settings. So that is, you can customize it when you're the host. When you set up your meeting preferences, there's all kinds of stuff, and you can see the documentation on the Zoom support site. But if you're using Zoom, you can say, only group chat, or you can turn off what they're able to do. You can say, hey, everyone will come in and the audio will be muted, so you don't have problems like that. So you can make certain settings depending on how you want to run the class. So right now, if you look in the chat, you can chat me directly, you can chat another person directly, or you can chat everyone, but you can change those settings. So that is something that you're able to do.
And, you know, I just want to acknowledge that sisters Elizabeth and Mary Joy here mentioned something, which is that, you know, there are certain times where I work with students on really like private personal stuff, especially around popular music and things that have to do with race or gender or sexuality, etc. And so as long as everything is recorded, if that needs to be a private moment, that's something that can be agreed between you and a parent and say, hey, look, we're going to have this in private, but I'm making the content totally available to you. You know, but this was needed to be a private artistic thing. I think as long as there's a written negotiation of what rules and regulations go on, I think that's pretty great. Oh, what's that? Oh, I love that, Tara. Thanks for sharing. Privacy settings. Can you just speak on that a little bit more, Ellen? What privacy settings? Can the host always see all private chats between attendees? No. Kara, that's a great question. If it's private, it's private. Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question.
Great. So there's a couple other general Zoom questions that we'll get to once we get to the Q&A, but there are a lot of specific things that we want to get to. So please keep them coming. I am making a document of them and we're going to talk through them when we get to 3:30. But why don't we go ahead and thank you, Sheri, and Gwen, so much for that. That was great. Yay. I like to see all the virtual clapping. And so now what we're going to do is turn it over to Jonathan Flom and Douglas Hall, who can talk about musical theater and acting classes that we have to now make online, how we might do that. So I'm going to go ahead and Jonathan or Douglas, do you want to start?
Why don't you start?
Sure. So one of the things I've been trying to think about is how do we make this an integral part of it rather than just filming, acting, and critiquing it that way. How can we make the filming a part of it? And I'm actually going into a session where we're working on Chekhov, which is a little bit different than most musical theater stuff. But one of the things that I'm going to have them do is to use the camera like an MTV video diary. So that prior to some of the homework that we hope that they're doing on scenes anyway, like what's the moment before, using camera to video that or to have these private moments. Either before a scene would begin or after they exit a scene, that they would go into the diary room and record something, and that we can watch that and talk about it. And also talk about, in terms of script analysis from characters' points of view, is having them exit a scene, like the scene in The Seagull after the play, like, you know, Treplove comes off and goes, well, that was a shit show, blah, 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 blah. And talks about what just happened in the play from their characters' point of view. And we do that for all the characters in the scene, then watch them together and talk about it. And then my other idea was what I call the Fleabag exercise, where they're doing a scene and they have a third person there who's on camera, so they can turn and talk to the camera while they're in a scene. And sort of, it's that articulate your subtext exercise, but it's using that camera as an intimate confidant or some way to talk about that. And then we can look at it, well, how does that subtext affect what's happening in the scene? So those are just some of my ideas about how to make the on-camera part of it, rather than just we're watching it. Most of my students have said they're all going to be in town, they're going to be at each other's houses, and so that we can record scenes and watch them, or they can be together and people can be watching through a Zoom platform. What I'd ask them to do is, if there's a scene that includes intimacy, to have a third person there, or have a third person filming that, just so that nothing gets weird. But that's sort of where I am. Jonathan, what are you thinking?
Well, thanks, Douglas. Those are cool ideas. I love I saw it popping up in the chat as well. The Fleabag idea is awesome. You know, there are obviously, I think, a few clear, easy solutions to teaching acting on video. You know, the analysis work that we do, the actual lecturing on acting technique can be done. And a lot of people have been recommending things like monologues and self-tape. I'm going to pose this more as a question than an answer, because I'm still struggling with this, which is, I'm teaching a very beginning acting class this semester. They're actually not even majors. They're people in other majors that are taking acting for various reasons. And I've sort of done my fill of the lecture and the analysis and the preparation. And right before spring break, they were starting to dive into partnered scenes. And so where I'm stuck right now is that if I can't get them into a room together, how do I continue that partnered work? The kids that I'm working with this semester in particular are not ready for monologues, and they don't really need self-tape because they're not doing this as a career per se. And so while that specifically might not apply to all of us that are teaching acting, the question of jumping to self-tape, jumping to what I think as an acting teacher is a very advanced technique, just because it doesn't require other people in the room. I don't know that that's necessarily the best solution. I don't know that all of our students are ready for that, if that makes sense. And so what I'm interested in exploring in this group is how we're dealing with scene work, how we're dealing with listening and responding. One thought that I had as I was sitting here brainstorming is that Meisner technique can probably be done in this platform. The idea of holding a chat room and having two of your students look into the camera and listen and repeat with each other is a possibility. I also think that in terms of a hybrid of self-tape in a partnered scene scenario, that maybe you just say to each student, if you can't actually be with your partner, get somebody off camera to read the other person's lines for you, and I'm gonna work with you and coach you on how you are responding to that other person as though they're the imaginary partner in the room. That's really kind of what I got at this point for this, and I'm more interested in asking the question and hearing what other people are doing. I don't know, Alan, is there space, do you think, to sort of let other people jump in on this?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of stuff that's just come up in the chat that I think is worth talking about. So let's look at a couple of these. Really good point here from M. Goral. From a public health point of view, is it ethical to ask or even allow students to do scenes together, to meet to do scenes together? Everywhere in the nation is a different place, but this is changing daily. I think this is really important for us to think about, is what is the liability of asking them to be in the same room together? Social distancing says 6 feet, right? And I was just having conversations about you know, oh, but this person has a recital and this person was going to sing a duet, and what are we doing? And can you be in the room with an accompanist? And right now the answer is no, right? Legally, the answer is no. So I think what we have to think about is even if they are going to get together, even if they are in the same place, to ask them to do that, it really puts us in danger from a liability point of view, right? And is sort of trying to bend the rules when really we all need to stay apart. So I think that there's some things to think about in terms of what we really should be asking, and could we get in trouble if we are asking those things. A couple things one thing to just point out that I think might help some of this discussion about scene work is the nice thing about Zoom, as opposed to some other platforms, is you can do breakout rooms. So you can have a breakout room session, so you can have everybody come together and then send your people to work on, in a smaller video chat, a scene, either work on table work, or you can actually even get them to do line throughs and things like that. Even do the scene in that way and record it. So that could be an option, but I think it's really dangerous to say, oh yeah, but you're in the same place, so go ahead and do the scene together. Physicalizing the scene in the same room is probably not ethically an option, I think. Okay, let's take a look at some of this. If anyone has any comments about that. I'm just looking back at the chat. Oh, can you explain how to do a breakout room? And yes, what Sheri's saying here, it's very workable to do that for scene study, but not with music. So duets in terms of sung scenes aren't really an option in this platform. Right. However, there are some interesting things that I think we could consider doing if we need to try to get them to make music together. There's some really interesting apps, in terms of not only making music, but also dance, as we're going to get to. TikTok is really popular with them. There's also a very cool web chat that I just heard about from Tom Burke's recent webinar about this, called Marco Polo. And what that is you can send little quick video chats on your phone, and it can either be they watch it live or they watch it not in real time. But the idea is you can send little mini videos back and forth, and that's sort of a way that you could work on your scene, or do it from two locations, just like you would a regular video chat. So those are some options as well. The other thing that is being really talked about right now is, should our teaching be synchronous or asynchronous, right? Should it be live meetings like this in Zoom, where everybody's logged in and one person talks at a time and we watch their work live? Or should you have them film it and put it on a discussion board and then require certain people to watch it whenever they want? That's another option. And some people are saying that that is better to do in terms of giving them more flexibility to watch things at their own time and not require them to be logged in at a specific point in time. But also on the flip side, I think it could make it a little bit more lonely and lose some of the social settings that is really valuable in all of our classes working together, and just building class camaraderie, because clearly that's an issue too. Jonathan, go ahead.
Thanks, Alan. I just want to respond to what you just said about the synchronous versus asynchronous, because we had a discussion about that at Slippery Rock in our department yesterday. I think that we've all agreed that the ideal for us is to teach a synchronous class where the students have to show up at a time and log in and be a part of the chat room, kind of the way we're doing right now. But we also have to recognize that because of our students spreading out geographically to wherever they are at home, they may not have access to the broadband or the bandwidth that they need to stay on live. So if you scale back your attendance policies and you record the synchronous classroom while it's happening, encourage students to attend class live, but also post on whatever platform your school uses, whether it's Canvas or for us, it's D2L. Post the link to the lecture after you're finished, and just say to the students, look, we're not taking attendance. We'd like you to be there live so that you can engage. But if you're not able to be there live and engage, here's the information, here's the full lecture, and you're responsible for following up and watching this, because this stuff might be on the test, for example.
Absolutely. Sheri, is that you waving your hand there? Did you have something? Or no, you're just gesturing. Okay, great. So just a couple other things that you can think about if you're trying to do a duet. These are things that I've been considering. You could send an accompaniment track, have them sing their own tracks and send them back together and put it together through GarageBand. You know, Eric Whitaker, the choral conductor, did something very similar for choirs, you know, and made a virtual online choir. So that's a really great thing to think about, mashing up things together after the fact. But in terms of actual scene work, that idea of getting them into a breakout room or having them do their own video chat meeting and recording it is probably the most direct way where you can actually have them talking to each other in semi-real time. Other questions or comments about this?
Hey, Alan, it seems like a bunch of people are asking about a demo of the breakout room. Since we still have more time in the sort of acting section of this, could you share your screen and show us how to do a breakout room?
Yeah, because I'm a co-host and Sheri is the actual host of the meeting, I've been looking and I don't have that that button. But what happens?
What button is it, babe?
Breakout rooms. Can you see that on yours?
I don't even know where that is. Hold on, where would I even look for that?
It's at the bottom near pause and stop recording usually. It's supposed to be in there. But it's from what I've been reading, it is a Zoom specific feature. So things like Microsoft Teams do not have it, but it's a really exciting thing where you can assign people to different breakout rooms, and it might not be in this particular setting. You might have to enable it in your advanced settings, but you can assign different people. You can jump in between them. You can close them. And there's lots of great videos on the Zoom on YouTube for Zoom tutorials to show you how to do it. But you can divide up your class in real time and make them as small or as big as you want. So it could be 2 people in a breakout room. You can shuffle them. It can be random, which is also great. Or you can assign people. You can remove someone from a room. There's a lot of features.
Oh, that's great, Tim. Thanks for that.
Miss Mandy says, any suggestions for acting exercises or warm-ups for a group setting? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Jonathan.
If Charlie Gilbert is still in the chat room, I got to see Charlie present his Savvy system a couple of weeks ago at SETC in terms of warm-ups. If we're talking about musical theater specifically, he would be someone that I would love to throw out to have the conversation. I would say from an acting warm-up, the Meisner repetition work would be something that would probably work very well in this platform, just because all it requires is 2 people to be able to look at each other. And I'm also happy to volunteer to help facilitate that. If you've not done Meisner technique before, or if you haven't introduced that to your students, I would be more than happy to Zoom in and teach a virtual class for anybody, or to teach you how to teach the Meisner stuff. It's something that I specialize in.
Joe Deere is being hysterical, saying virtual zip zap zop, and that's one thing when you think about what that might be, because of the to have everybody's mic open is usually a recipe for disaster, especially if certain people are not wearing headphones. So the more mics open you have on any of these platforms, the more you can have echo backs and things like that. So something where you're passing it along like telephone or zip zap zop is probably not going to be great. But something that is a little bit more controlled in terms of who's speaking or who's doing that. Or it could be I am leading a warm up and everyone else's mic is muted and everyone's watching me and doing it and following along. That is really the best way in terms of if you want to demonstrate something and then have them do it in their own space, that is something that could be done. But it's sort of one person does the leading.
Okay.
Are you open to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I hadn't thought about this before, but I taught acting for non-majors. So the gentleman who was saying like you were teaching people who weren't ready to do monologues and stuff, that tends to be the world that I've taught acting in the most. And most of the things that we did to get students started would work. Like I think if you did things like where you have to say a word and another person has to say a line that starts with the last letter of your line and things like that, those basic acting games, even like saying objects in a category, like everyone has to say a movie title or something if you go back and forth with ping pong with different things like that. But we also used to do warm-ups where it was like the evolution of a movement. Like if someone starts a physical movement and everyone does the movement together and the leader keeps changing and you evolve the movement. So I think a lot of things, you can do physical things too, to get people working together that can see each other. You wouldn't even have to see the whole group simultaneously.
Yes, absolutely. Jonathan, do you want to go ahead and show the screen recording lecture?
Sure. This is for any of you who teach lecture classes. I just wanted to really quickly show you something that you can do in Keynote. And I don't know if PowerPoint has an equivalent. So
it does. You can also do it in PowerPoint.
Great. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Keynote. Hopefully this works. So if you're in your Keynote, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is it working? Okay, cool. So let's pick, oh, I don't know. Let's talk about dramatic structure. Oh, did it not share? Hold on. Keynote, share. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So in Keynote, let's say you have a lecture that you want to post online for your students and you're not going to teach it in real time. I just want to really quick point out to you that if you go into Keynote and you click Record Slideshow, what it will allow you to do is basically, it's going to look like this. I can hit the record button and I can start talking about I can start teaching my lecture, and the students are going to just see the slides, but they're going to hear my voice as they're watching the slides. And I'm going to click through the slides, and basically what they'll see is sort of a video of the whole lecture. So if I hit record here, okay, it's going to give me 3 seconds, boom. So we want to talk about our friend Aristotle today. He's a cool guy. He wrote an essay called The Poetics, in which he said that a play is an imitation of an action, blah, blah, blah. So I would go on, and I would record my whole thing, right? And when I'm done recording it, it will give you an option to, where is it? You can play the slideshow somewhere in, oh, so you can export the slideshow to a movie. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to take longer and it may freeze the screen. But I just wanted to point out to you that if you teach lecture classes, you can, and you do them with like a PowerPoint or a Keynote presentation, you can basically record your entire lecture, the audio, as you click through the slides. You can export it to a movie, and then you can post it for them, whether it's on YouTube or on Canvas or on D2L, or you can post it into the cloud. And so that's another way of preparing a lecture that isn't going to be done synchronistically in real time. So I just thought I would throw that out there for you guys. That's all.
Great. Yes, people were asking if you can do that in PowerPoint. You can, as well as Google Slides, and you could screen share. So let's say you're doing a Zoom lecture, and just how Jonathan did it, you can do it right there. So that's option as well. Google Slides, I've been reading, has a live transcription feature, which is rare. So most things will, like this particular video, will have a transcript that is made after the fact. But especially if you have accessibility issues for your students, thinking about, you know, do you need a live transcription for anybody? If you can do that through Google Slides. So Jonathan, there was a follow-up question from Amy.
I was just about to start typing, but now I'll just say it. So I tend, personally, when I teach and I use PowerPoint or Keynote lectures, I always PDF the lectures and post them on D2L for the students after the class so that they don't have to sit and frantically take notes during the class. And then when I do a quiz or a test online, I either hide all of the lectures or I limit the amount of time, like the time limit on the test, so that, and I tell them, look, if you're not gonna study for this and you're gonna try and go in and use the notes in, you know, to cheat as you take the test, then you're not gonna have enough time to complete it. I try to make things less multiple choice and more open-ended so that they really have to do the studying in order to pass it in the amount of time. The other thing that my colleague Deanna often says, which is just another way to look at it, is that she doesn't really mind if they're using their lecture notes because she wants them engaging with the material one way or the other. So that's another way to look at it. And again, you know, I think the thing that we all have to remember about this whole situation is that it's temporary and it's not going to be the perfect solution. And for some of you, particularly the voice teachers, I think this is a lifestyle. You're going to teach online, and there are things about this that are going to be part of your career and your work going forward. For those of us that teach acting and dance specifically, I think we're looking for temporary solutions, and we're looking for things that are, you know, good enough and going to give the students the material they need, knowing full well that next semester we'll be back to sort of real life, I hope. Oh, you know what, Alan, I'll say one other thing that I wanted to throw out there that I shared with my faculty yesterday, and that I think would be really cool in this group here too, is that we maybe consider connecting with smaller groups of us and doing like sort of mock teaching before we actually try and go live with our students. Like, I had this idea that we can do Meisner repetition virtually, but I've never done it. So, you know, if there's like a handful of people that want to try a Meisner class, or if there's a handful of people that if I sent you sides from a scene and want to try doing a practice, you know, partnered scene online, like if we try doing this in small groups and test it out and see how it works to be the host of a Zoom room, maybe we do that in a closed and safe environment before we jump in with our students.
I love that idea. I love it. That way we can kind of keep engaging and playing too. But I just wanted to make one tiny comment. Can everybody hear me okay? I just wanted to make one tiny comment, which, you know, and I even remember when I first started online, Amy Rogers Schwartzreich said to me, but aren't you going to lose a certain something online? Like, doesn't it lose a certain something? And I just want to let you know that all the intimacy that we're looking for from people, it shows up right here with us. So that's the good news, is that I just wanted to let you know that, like, there are very intimate details that we can actually be excited about and surprised about, that it's going to come up from this wild thing. So I just wanted to encourage everybody. I know I've been saying this before, but there's like really, really good, subtle acting work that we get to do. It's subtle. But having a scene happen between two different people in two different spaces, it can 100% be done. I will create a meeting for Meisner. Oh my God, I'm just screaming them there. No, Matt, that's the thing. Music won't work, but the scene work will. The scene work will, and the intimacy of the scene will. The music won't. It's just too tricky right now. Yeah. But the scene work, yums. Really good stuff on this platform. That's all. Thanks, Jonathan. That's great. Alan's muted. Yeah.
Oops. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. So just a couple things about accessibility real quick. There were some questions on earlier that I want to make sure I get to. So making sure that after you scan a PDF of a scene or any kind of reading, that you use something like Adobe Acrobat Pro to use optical character recognition is a big thing for accessibility. So to make sure that you have character recognition, it'll take a scanned document and then make all of the text searchable. And so you can use things like screen readers. That is really helpful. And one other thing I wanted to show you, so my particular university I'm using, we're a Microsoft school, and one of the things that I use to sort of share documents and keep it in a standard place is OneNote class notebook. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you what that looks like really fast, because that might be helpful. So this is a OneNote class notebook for a class I'm building. And what's really nice is the students all get a section when I add them. There's a collaboration space where they can work on things together. I can make recordings and give audio comments. I can put PDFs in there. I can put exercises for different classes. And the nice thing is that it all syncs to the cloud and is uploaded in real time. So they have attachment files. There's also a great way you can draw right on the various things. So I can make comments on their work and things like that. And as well as a teacher only space where I have my information that they can't see. So it's a really great thing if you have an Office 365 subscription, but you can also do that on any of your learning management systems. People were talking about Canvas, Google Classroom, Blackboard, D2L. All of these things have document sharings in ways like that. Okay, so we're basically we're close to 3 o'clock here, so I will go ahead and turn it over to Stacy, Allie, and Allison, who are going to talk about dance and movement. And keep the questions coming. I will continue to compile them, and then we'll have a Q&A after that. So let me get out of this share here, and let me find Stacy. There's so many people here. Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Do you want to start?
Myself in a large. Oh my God. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. For those of you who don't know, Stacy Alley is our president of Musical Theater Educators Alliance.
Hail to the chief. Hi, Charlie. Hi, everybody. Like Jonathan, I really thought that, I'm interested in hearing other people's ideas, and I'm already getting ideas from hearing what you guys are doing with acting and voice lessons. Because I was first of the mindset that, it is not up to me to prove that what we do, we can't do this online. It's up to me to say that we can't do this online. But we have no choice. And, it's not going to be the same, but going into the break, this is our spring break next week. I already had the chat with students, and the way that I'm currently teaching an advanced tap class, and the way that I construct that class anyway, we have the class in person, and then always at the end, I record what we do, and I record it with counts, and I record and I do it with the music, and I do it saying the actual steps as well as with the counts. And then they have access to that on a Facebook page. I prefer a Facebook platform rather than using Blackboard like I'm supposed to, because it's immediate and they're on there very quickly. But I think that I'm going to just expand what I'm already doing. I just won't be able to teach it ahead of time. So my ideas are going to be that it's still going to be the same type of classroom situation. My issue is the feedback that I don't think I'm going to be able to get. And I don't think I can do a Zoom type of situation with everyone being able to actually be in a space, in an environment where they can tap dance or or have a bar for a ballet class. So that's what I'm interested to hear, how all of you plan on dealing with this. And, I suggested getting some fake, like the linoleum, like the fake wood at Lowe's. You can go to for $40. You can get a certain amount of that they can have a tap dance floor. But again, I'm just coming from that perspective. That's the only dance class I'm teaching this semester. The other one I'm teaching is a careers class, which I feel I got a lot of good info today about how I can continue with that. I feel that's a research-based class. We're doing self-tape, all of that's fine. But how do I get these kids on their feet? And when perhaps they're at their parents' house and they're going to tap dance in a bathroom. So I don't want it to just become a research class for the rest of the semester. It is a technique class. It's not even a styles class, even though we do cover that. So any ideas, Joe dear? I'm allowing tap in hard shoes if needed. Yeah, that makes sense. My kids didn't take all of their equipment. Yeah, well, see, we had the advantage of knowing that we are, you know, take your tap shoes home. But you know, we're all gonna have to make exceptions. Who has any money for that? Do I hear someone else talking and I can't hear them? Or maybe it's feedback for me. Any ideas? It's for that you teach in a smaller space as well, so you are doing smaller area movements. I'm gonna let them teach in sneakers. It's just so hard to do that.
For my class, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. My class is not necessarily generalized in tap, jazz, musical theater. It's just movement. So I'm lucky in the fact that I can kind of manipulate it in a way that fits for what I need to do. I think for tap, it definitely needs to be the hard shoes, because if you go barefoot, that's going to hurt their feet. And I'm coming across the same situation. It's like, how do you teach movement when you don't want them jumping on a kitchen floor? Like, that's just not good for the body. And so I know not necessarily in tap, conditioning would be a little bit different for the feet, but maybe it's working with floor bar movement and strengthening their ankles. I don't know, maybe there's one day focusing on conditioning for tap dancers, because feet is everything for tap. For me, I'm trying to focus on conditioning in general, because that's one thing that we were doing already in class this year, was just building up that stamina. And then random side note, jumping off, and then we'll come back to it. I was also thinking in this situation, it's like we're all about to be online with every single class, that maybe, and it doesn't even have to be in a dance class, but taking 20 minutes of the day to go walk outside. We're about to be so cooped up in these rooms doing online classes that I was thinking within my conditioning class, okay, go walk outside for 20 minutes. That could be something a part of it, because we're going to be indoors, just staring at a screen all day. So that's just something I thought about randomly. But I'm jumping back now onto tap. I was also thinking that same situation of going to go buy, but again, not every student may be able to go buy a board to go tap dance on. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, some of them do plan on, as soon as they're allowed to have online classes, a lot of them are planning, at least now, to come back to campus, because they said they can't be around their parents that long. So they're planning, as of right now, they'll be allowed to at a certain point. So if that dance studio is open, then they're planning on like gathering in one place. And we all talked about that not being really a good idea, but there are going to be things that are open to them as well. Yes, I know I can do some, you know, my thoughts are, I record something, I send it to them. This is what I want you to learn. You know, I break it down, and then they have to come up with perhaps 3 different pieces of music that particular combination goes with. So it's more about, not so much as, you know, having to have the shoes on. I also have my MTEA warm-up recorded. Yeah. I also got some information that if anyone's interested, there's going to be a YouTube channel, and I can send the information. Creative Commons Attribution there's going to be, the materials will be licensed under a certain name, but there's going to be a YouTube channel where dance teachers can post their online classes. So if you do have an online class, and there's certain information that you have to send to this website, to this email that I can send you guys, but it's called Open Source Dance Class at gmail.com. And so if that's something anyone's interested in, that's also a way. And then I know that David Winans Tap Rhythm is available. So I will send all of that. Other ideas?
Amy, I can offer some additional.
Hi, Amy.
If you'd like. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. Our tap, I don't teach musical theater tap. I teach more of the ballet, jazz end of things, musical theater dance, and I teach a choreography lab class, which is going to be interesting. But our tap teachers are just issuing series of rhythms that students obviously will self-tape. I have TAs in my beginning level classes, and I've asked my TA to create, for instance, a 20-minute ballet bar that students can participate in. Also, we try our best to cross-disciplinary, the cross-disciplinary approach. And one assignment I think I might try is to have students pull a song from their book that would require movement, and have them try to create movement for that purpose and self-tape that as well. So those are just a couple of things. As far as my choreography lab class, I'm going to have to make some changes because they typically create a group number, so it's going to have to be more solo pieces. We're such an urban campus. Most of our students have, like several other people I'm sure, have gone home, but and group conversations about style. Those are some of the themes that are running through my classes at the moment. I'm also doing a romp through the decades of different styles of dance through the decades. So students can create an offer or reflect on specific styles, clips that I might issue for them as an assignment. So those are a couple of things I'm thinking about. Happy to hear more.
I'm also, their final is going to be doing Tain't Nobody's Business from Bullets Over Broadway. So I was going to turn it more into a research, extend sort of the research aspect of the assignment, as well as me breaking down the steps. And I think the best way is going to be me taking a video of myself teaching it, breaking it down, sending it to them, and then they just send it back to me one at a time. It's going to require a lot more work on our end. All of this, of course. Yeah, those were great. Those are great ideas, Amy, for sure. I sent this. I'm sending this link, and I can also put it on the Facebook page for this YouTube channel that I talked about, you guys. So that's on there. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Any other ideas for, let's see, David, yes, David's rhythm tap stuff. David said he would send, he's allowing people access to that for free. Again, it's not the content, in my opinion, it's not the content. It's more of how I can communicate with my students and how they have a lack of room to dance. A lot more time grading videos. Yes, indeed. Just trying to see what else people say here.
Jumping on to Courtney's, it keeps moving. Have somebody create their own, or have the students create their own warm-up. I read that. I'm a part of another dance group also focusing on this, and I read create their own warm-up, and I think that's valuable to be able to, it puts it on them to be like, okay, you've had 8 weeks so far to focus on the warm-up that the teacher's been giving you. What would it look like specifically for you now? Because a lot of these students may go on tours and shows, and it's like, oh, we don't have somebody who's teaching us a warm-up anymore. What do I do? So this may be a valuable time to have them create their own warm-up, pretend like they're on a show and there's not somebody in front of them teaching it to them. So and be able to, it's not necessarily critiquing, and then give them pointers and be like, oh, you forgot to stretch your hamstrings in this moment, and then add it in. So it's like, it presents a way for whenever you do a show and you have to warm up on your own, they now have their own warm up. And because sometimes if they create it themselves, they'll remember it better sometimes than, oh, I know a warm up from a class, but they may not remember it as much. So right. I like that warm up idea.
Everyone's body's different, and they need certain emphasis on various things. So yeah, great idea. I have students reconstructing significant choreo for Holloway and Broadway short sequences. Yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen. Again, I'm just concerned about people who don't have the space to do that, who don't have access to a studio. But because I have 25 people in my advanced tap class. So that's a lot of videos to look at.
Just wanted to chime in about the video thing. So that's something that I know a lot of people are concerned about. I'd encourage you to thinking about ways to make these smaller, both in the amount of time that it will take for the student to make them, and also the amount of time for you to give feedback, to use assessment modules in a smaller way, especially for students who don't have broadband access or don't have unlimited internet. If we're asking them to do really long videos, then it's going to be a lot more work for us. But the idea of doing something like Marco Polo, or using WhatsApp and say, okay, you have to do something 60 seconds or less, or 100 megabytes or less, and then I can give you 1 minute of feedback. Oftentimes if you're thinking about okay, what is the outcome, and just give them one learning outcome and say, do this, and that's your assignment for 2 days. And then you get really quick little videos. Some people were asking also about other ways to mark up videos and send them back. There are a lot of different platforms you can use. VoiceThread is one that my university has, where people can record audio and video feedback as well as other things. So that's an option. It really depends on what the tech that you want to use. Some people will use Facebook Messenger as well to send videos pretty easily. So there's a lot of options there.
I also thought about even just using FaceTime to do something actual. I mean, it's really teaching sort of mini private lessons, but I feel like that's really important as well, to be able to give feedback in the moment. So do you have other ideas about that? I mean, to me, that's the easiest thing to do. They all have phones and we just sort of do it live. To Canvas. Yep. Yeah, these are all great ideas.
Tommy was asking about intro classes. Does anyone have any thoughts about when they need individual feedback while learning things for the first time, like he's teaching Tap 1, for example?
Well, that's why I think that one-on-one is even more important, or that live feedback, immediate feedback, to me seems very even more important than in an advanced class.
I wonder if, and again, this would just end up being more work. It's like, if you have a class of 40, if you split it into two, like 20 and 20, and 20 people every Monday, they're going to be moving, and the other 20 that are not moving are doing some written projects. So you have less people to focus on. And again, it's so much more work. But then that takes away 20 people, and it's not like those 20 people have that Monday off. They could be doing something else, written work, and then you can tap in on Zoom and give feedback that way. That's just something I thought of right now. But again, that's just a lot more work to focus on. I mean, but it at least zooms down who you're focusing on instead of 40 people.
What's going to be interesting is when this is all over, and then we can, talk about what worked and what didn't. And that's going to be an interesting discussion, hopefully sooner than later.
Hey, Alan, can I just jump in real quick on one thing?
No.
I'm going to anyway. Because I keep trying to start typing this, and then the chat gets so full that it's just easier for me to say it. Because a couple of people have mentioned viewpoints, which is something that I use as well in acting class. And I know we're talking about it in regards to dance, but I would offer the possibility that if you have your class in a Zoom chat room and you ask them to just turn up the volume enough that they can hear you and let you guide them, and that they have enough space in their living room or their bedroom or wherever they are, the majority of viewpoints work can be done as you sort of orally guide them through it. I mean, obviously the repetition and the kinesthetic response can't be done because you don't have another person in there. But in terms of having them explore tempo, duration, shape, gesture, topography, landscape, all of that stuff, viewpoints is actually probably a really cool thing that can be done under these circumstances. And then when I do viewpoints work with them, for me, I know it's probably different than with the purpose of dance, but from an acting perspective, I use it, and then I have them do a lot of reflection. So I might have them walk around their room and vary tempos and durations and gestures, and then I might bring them back into a circle in real time. But, obviously it would be more into the Zoom chat, and say, great, what did you experience? Talk about how that affected you emotionally. Talk about what you discovered about your own body when you varied your tempos or duration. So to whoever brought up viewpoints, I actually think that's infinitely usable under these circumstances.
Yeah. And everyone just, oh, I'm muted, hold on. That Jonathan put up the link to Heather's online class about teaching dance online. So that's up there if anybody missed that.
Great. Any other questions about dance or movement? It looks like there's a lot of conversation about showcases, which we can definitely do. Courtney Young, I see that you raised your hand. So,
Yes.
So what's your question?
Well, it's more of a comment. I did read one article that I believe I posted to MTEA, and the headline is something along the lines of teach your online courses poorly. No, I mean really. And it's kind of a fun headline for overachievers and type A personalities. But what it said is that for our students, this could be one of the most stressful things that has happened in their entire lifetime. And we need to be aware that they might not be able to be in class with us at a specific time. And so one takeaway that I had that I thought was valuable to share was that just submit an assignment. This is what you have to do this week. It's due on Sunday at 11:55 p.m. Do it whenever you can this week. And I'm thinking about that as I teach a jazz 2 class to freshmen, first years. And, you know, how can just thinking I will record the warm-up or have them do a warm-up assignment or record a small space combination that they can do on carpet or linoleum or wood that they then have to upload by Sunday night at 11:55 p.m. But figuring out how to not require them, or really me, who is going to have small children at home, to be anywhere at any time. So I just wanted to share that.
Great. One thing that I would love to offer, because I've been thinking a lot about this too, there is so much about a benefit to asynchronous teaching, like you're talking about. Do the assignment when you want. I will say that when I was teaching an online class this fall to first-year students, and it was a music skills class, that they sort of missed having someone in front of them, even though they were getting those videos, that they missed having really a sense of camaraderie. And so what I worry about for our students' mental health right now is how much they might want to just feel connected to each other. And since they're not going to get their spring, and they're not going to get their graduation, maybe they're not going to get the things that they usually get in the spring, that if offering them maybe a once a week optional Zoom class and then having assignments might be a good compromise to say, oh yeah, I miss my friends and I really want to make sure that I still feel like I'm a part of a group, because I think that that's the flip side concern from just all of a sudden moving everything isolated.
Great idea.
I just want to co-sign that with Alan, because I think the idea of normalizing this as much as possible, even just getting them in the same place together at the same time once a week, just normalizes things at least. So I feel like it's a really, really beautiful idea. Like the midterm that I'm doing at Manhattan School of Music right now, I made them do their own self-tapings of their own rock songs in their own spaces as a midterm, as an example of using the camera, using the techniques. And we're going to probably be online for the rest of the semester. So like, why not teach them how to use those techniques in the meanwhile? But I feel like if there's a way to get people together in any way, it's normalizing.
And Sheri, have you found in your teaching online, your group teaching, that it's that makes it a really positive experience to have it synchronous, to have it like we meet at this time and we're all together?
Always. In fact, I don't know if anybody who's been in my class before is in this group right now, but it becomes something that it's like we look forward to the connection. So that's why I feel like it feels normal, and then it will become something, hopefully this, like I said, this won't go on for very long, as you said, but it becomes something that people can look forward to being in the same group, even if we're all in our own apartments, we're together. So that's why this platform is actually cool, because it makes me have lunch dates with people, and it makes me like be with people. It actually just immediately connects in an isolating time.
Great. Oh, and there's a lot of people who have taken your class who seem to love that in the chat, which is great. Great. Any other questions or comments about dance or movement? And then we can move on to a more open Q&A. But anything about that, you can raise your hand or you can say something in the chat if you have any more dance or movement questions.
Stephen Brodebeck here. I'm just letting you know, hey guys, I'm going to be my first class on Monday, my first dance class. I'm teaching in the studio to all of my students who are going to be in different spots. Now, again, I only have 5 graduate students taking dance class, so it's not 40. But I'm going to do it on Monday morning, and I will share the results and let you know how it goes and give you any tips and feedback that comes along with it, because I'm sure all of my graduate students will have an immense amount of feedback on how it goes.
Great.
There's a question that came up about physical distance as well as stage combat. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions, thoughts or comments related to the possibility of doing stage combat? That's tricky. Use a dummy. Okay, the School of American Fight Directors Facebook is having this discussion right now. That's great. So I've been thinking about it a little bit, and my recommendation in terms of things that you can do on your own, things that you can model, the same way that you would do as a dance combination, and then ask them to film something and send back and give feedback is probably the best way. Yeah, some videos that they have to identify how it's done. Oh, that's an interesting thing, showing some good combat as well. Okay, great. Yeah, I would definitely go the Fight Directors Facebook group. They're an amazing group of people, so they can help as well. Okay, so why don't we move on to a general Q&A. I will make me the spotlight here. So I have a list of things that people have been asking over the course of our chat, and I'm sure I'll miss some. So please, if I don't get to it, let me know. And also, you can use the raise hand feature if you want to try to get my attention, or if you have an answer. Why don't we start with any comments about senior showcases, because there was a sort of big discussion on that. Richard Rowland, I saw that you were talking about what they're doing for IU. Would you like to share? Because that sounded like you guys have a good plan.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I just took the initiative, and we're going to create a website portal through the IU website, and and that should, under all of the umbrella of music licenses and all that, take care of any rights or copyright concerns that one might have about broadcasting a copyrighted song. We're going to have these done remotely. We haven't figured out the system just yet, but we're trying to figure this out now, so when we get back from spring break, we can start putting materials together and posting it sometime in May, when we would have had our showcase. And we'll follow that up with, we'll take our seniors or current seniors to New York in September, October to showcase them live as well, which it sounds like a lot of you are going to do as well.
Great. Anyone else have any other comments on senior showcases? Feel free to use the raise hand. Stacy said, we just recorded our showcase to send all the agents, casting directors who accepted the invite. And Joy says, send me the links and we'll share them with the Casting Directors Association. Tina.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the senior showcase thing. I mean, how are you all feeling? I mean, our showcase isn't until May. So like right now, I think all of our seniors are hoping that they're going to at least have their friends and family showcase on May 15th, but I'm, sort of unsure about that, because we were planning on, our plan B at our school was that we were going to videotape the friends and family one. and do a virtual one in the way that people have been talking about, you know, having an online version where we were able to separate each individual student's section of the showcase. They could have it for their reels, et cetera. But, you know, it sounds like from the way everyone's talking that no one thinks we're going to even be back in May. Is that where we are?
There are many schools who, including mine at Ohio University, we're not back, that they've canceled in-person instruction for the rest of the year. I know a lot of schools are moving in that direction, so that's something tricky.
Yeah, we haven't called that yet. And, you know, right now we're only out officially until April 10th. So yeah, so we're still trying to figure all that out. But I think that we're talking about, you know, all these different options, but I really like where Richard's school is going and planning to have the showcase in the fall. I think that would be fantastic because a lot of our kids have already booked summer stock, and to come back and put it together, you know, we've already started the work. I think that I'm so glad to hear that, Richard, because I haven't even suggested that to our team yet because we've been on this plan B mode of only virtual. And I think live is helpful. But Joy and other people who, I'd love your input about like how agents and casting directors, I mean, I've only talked to a few and I'm not in casting anymore. So I'm just curious to how you know, they're feeling about it.
Yes, any comments or feedback on that? I know Joe Deere said he wanted to say something about, he had a thought about senior showcases. Joe?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So at Wright State University, we've shifted in the last few years to an invited showcase instead of the open call, hoping people show up. I'm going to do probably what Richard has said, which is bring my students who can in the fall together to do something like our usual invited workshop showcase. But I am doing a series of webinars with agents, casting directors, alums, people at theme parks, people in the cruise industries and so forth, so that my students get a lot more industry immersion than they might have if we were in a traditional classroom setting. I'm really, like all of us, trying to make lemonade out of this. And I think that the old showcase model is sort of broken anyway. So I've been trying to, for years, I've been shifting away from, you know, rent a theater and put on a show. That's sort of been our approach lately, and it's been much more productive for students. And I'm going to try to replicate that. Unfortunately, my kids are all gone. I mean, my school is shut down for the remainder of the term. I would assume almost all universities are going to go the same way. So either we do it, so I can't film them. It's too early for us to have done that yet. So that's where we are.
Great. Anyone else have any comments on showcases? Go ahead and raise your hand if you do, and we can share those as well. All right. So yes, I agree. I would say that there was a discussion as early as my first MTEA conference back in 2016 about the senior showcase model being broken and moving towards digital. And I think now is a really great time to figure out how to do that in an effective way going forward. So our investment and our time is worth it for the students, and they have quality interactions with people. It's of course very unfortunate that now we can't really film their material at this point in the semester because of the situation, but thinking ahead and making sure that that's targeted, I think we can learn a lot in terms of how we think about showcasing these students. Amy had some interesting thoughts, and she said, what is the protocol for inviting to a digital showcase page? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Richard, go ahead.
There we go. Sorry, I can't find my raise hand button, so I literally did it. Yes, we're thinking of sending out the link, and if we can construct this in a way, including a digital passcode, a key that only they can access, so that to further allay any more fears of copyright infringement, we're not actually making this a public thing. It is an invitation only, sort of like an accepted, but from the university's point of view. Did that come through? Good, thanks.
Tina, go ahead.
Yes. So one of the things I was going to say is in the producing world, because we also, sometimes have something longer than B-roll, and that we need to share with people that are ready to invest in our show. And so the way that we can do it to protect all of the actors is it's usually on a password protected link, and it has to be less than 30 seconds, any one chunk. So I think there's a way to do this legally and respectfully. It's really the actors that we're protecting in that more than it is the licensing and the music. But what you have to do is create a password protected link on Vimeo. Vimeo Pro is great because it has a large capacity and it's not very expensive. And so most universities, I think, could afford to have their own Vimeo Pro account, but it would be a password protected link that you invite specific people to see, and they have to put in the password. And you don't give it to the students because they'll give it to all their friends. But if you find it's been hacked, you just change the password. The other thing that we've been developing relationships with casting directors and theaters so that we can invite them to view our students online, and we're making all of our students create websites. Of course, that is such a big deal right now. I hate the idea of getting away from total live auditions just because there's so much you can learn about a person in a live room, but I think we are at an age where the talent pool is so saturated that you have to find other ways to engage the community.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of chats here. Okay, great. Let's segue a little bit to some of the other questions that we had. I'm going to try to make sure that I get to them. So I've sort of broken them down from Zoom questions. So people were asking about the free account limits. Right now, if you have a free account, there is a 40-minute limit on a session. And I've seen on there that you can say that you're an educator and apply to get that 40-minute limit lifted. It does say on that particular website that it's K-12, but someone was saying that they were able to do it and they teach at college. So that's a possibility. Your site, your university almost, might have a site license as well. But there are, of course, other platforms that you can use if you don't have Zoom. Great. So in terms of other questions, we had questions about Bluetooth versus wired headphones. More modern Bluetooth headphones should be okay. Ones that aren't on Bluetooth 4 or later might have some delay. So if people are having issues in hearing, wired is always better and will have less latency or delay. People were asking about sharing screens. If you, when you click and you want to show a video on your screen, if you click share computer sound right when you start the screen share, then you're able to play videos and audio as well. And people were asking about whether you should, what you should do if you want students to watch videos before class, before having the video discussion. You could record those in Zoom if you're doing it. If the student is submitting videos, I would suggest doing that on another platform, whether it's on your LMS or not. You can spotlight people like I've been doing the whole time today. So I have the ability to spotlight a particular person. They, of course, can change their view back, so it's not locked for them, but they can go back to the Brady Bunch gallery view if they want. But the spotlight might be a more significant, easier way to do that. Just a couple other things people were asking about whiteboards. You can draw with your mouse. You don't need a stylus. You can disable chat. Or you could just enable certain things. That's all in your Zoom settings. People are also asking about transcript functions. You can, it does do automatic transcription of the video after the fact, but it often needs to be edited. So you should think about if you need to go back and edit what it thought you said. And the other thing to consider is for people who don't have unlimited data, whether you're using FaceTime, Teams, or this, there are definitely considerations that you might want to think about. I've seen a lot of best practices saying, please poll your students in your class and say, do you have access to Wi-Fi? Do you have any concerns about this? What do I need to know to make sure that you're really thinking about making everything accessible as much as possible. Okay, there was a couple dance questions. From a dance perspective, to see students perform simultaneously, I'm planning on sending them a demo recording or a combination of bar, any way that I can view them as a group in the gallery view. So the answer, I believe, is yes, but you can't see, like right now we have 84 people still in this chat. You can't see all 84 people if you click on the gallery view. It goes into different pages, so it might not be the most efficient way to try to see everybody. However, right now I have 5 across and 5 down, so on my gallery view, so you could see that many people at the same time, but if you have more than that, then it's going to break it up into multiple pages. So that's a good thing to keep in mind as you're trying to watch everybody. It also makes them really tiny, so you might not be able to get a good view and actually do the adjudication in real time. It's probably not realistic. There was another question, Jonathan, can you had found another question about dance, and I just lost it. I'm gonna find you again. Can you bring that back up? Do you know where that question went?
You want me to just ask the question? This was
could you? Yeah.
Sorry,
I just lost it.
I'm asking this on behalf of one of my dance faculty who couldn't be in this meeting. She says, can I pair students together, one student dancing, one student watching, and then they can talk to give and receive feedback? Would I create individual sessions and Zoom rooms for them to meet in? I have up to 10 pairs of students. So she's basically asking about pairing students together. Is that possible on this platform? And I think someone asked an acting related question that probably got lost in the scroll like just a minute ago about can you create a breakout session or a spotlight for 2 people so you can watch them interact?
Right. So if you were going to do that, you can do that in a breakout room. But what I know from researching on the Zoom platform, you can't record the different breakout sessions. So if you're going to, say, watch them do a Meisner exercise or have them do a scene, you might want to just make them record it themselves or have a private scheduled session with you and the 2 people who are going to work together. That might be a more efficient use of the time. And that way there aren't a ton of students waiting to watch 2 people work and using up your data that way. So scheduling smaller sessions might be the way to go for that. Great. Was there any other questions on dance? I felt like I was missing one from Eric.
Yes, I was asking about how to do an examination in classical ballet and jazz dance, because it's of course very difficult when you don't have a floor. How can you do that?
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I got a lot on private chat, but.
Sure, does anyone have any recommendations about ballet?
I do.
Yay.
Hey, it's Nancy. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was thinking again, the smaller bites of the work, that if you're asking them very specifically to do things that are just a few moments of moving and not long aspects of choreography, or if you wanted something longer, like, a 16 count bar of dance, then you could have them do it and record it for you.
Great.
Awesome, I also, oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. At our school, we've talked a lot about how in this situation, it's going to be ragtag, it's not going to be perfect, and that, there's doing dance, and then there's all other kinds of things about dance, knowing about dance, knowing the history of dance, knowing the context. And maybe for these 6-8 weeks that we have left, they're not going to be able to do it in the same way, but you can definitely have them look at 2 ballets and do a contrast and compare paper. Or I teach tap. I'm going to give them some films of wonderful tap numbers and say which of the vocabulary that we have worked on Do you recognize, you know, give me a list of the steps that we've done that you've seen in this choreography. Just assignments like that. And maybe we just have to accept that we're going to teach them more about the subject rather than doing the subject so much for right now.
Great. Anyone else have any other comments about dance?
This is Amy Yule. Can I just chime in for a second?
Sure.
Hi, thank you. I did respond to Eric, but something that our students tend to struggle with is being really sure about their terminology. So for instance, I'm planning on issuing assignments, and these will all have to be individually taped, but using ballet terms such as, you know, développé, and, you know, pliés, everything that might go together with an adagio, and they create their own adagio, and that's relatively stationary. As well as it may even be able to happen for some jazz terms, and even if that's a section of a warm-up, for instance. But I'm trying to find creative ways to keep their work going on their knowledge of terminology and being able to respond to it. I'm sure we all tell them in the professional world, you may get into a situation where you've learned a combination and the choreographer wants to see a little bit of technique. So everyone please, you know, tombe, pas de bourrée, glissade, grand jeté across the floor, and they need to know what that is without it being demonstrated. So that's just an idea that I'm going to try. That's it.
Great. Awesome. Okay, I just have a few more written questions and then we'll open it up, the ones that were previously asked, and then any additional Q&A, please get those questions ready. So there was a couple questions about partnering. Someone said maybe we could layer parts together in separate recordings, so vocal partnering, and then the teacher reviews the recording for that pair, and that pair is working with and the next recording. I think that is an option if people want to record their own parts, listen to a track that is pre-recorded and then sing along to it, and then send the recording of that vocal. Then you could put that all together in either a program like Audacity or Logic or GarageBand. So that is possible for audio recordings. If you wanted to try to make that remotely. There's also different apps that can do music collaboration. I was reading about one that's called Acapella, where you can actually record different tracks on top of yourself. So that's something to think about. Someone asked about musical theater scenes a cappella. That might be possible. The thing that you're not going to really get is simultaneous singing in real time from multiple locations. And that's the thing to remember. So if it's I sing a line and then you sing a line, that could work, but the timing might be slightly off. But it's the unison singing or the simultaneous stuff that we need to figure out other options, I think, at this point, unless it is recorded and put together at some point. And then dance partnering. No, I'm sorry, Andrea, I wasn't saying that. Focusing on the dance reel and what they should include is really, really great. That's awesome. Okay, any other, I think we'll go ahead and open it up to other questions because we've gotten through most of these that I wrote down from earlier. Please use the raise hand feature or use the chat if you have questions for specific people or questions in general, and we can keep this going as long as we need to for anybody who has those.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know, it's not a question, but it's just an offering. My teacher training is on Sunday nights. So if anybody wants to come in to my teacher training this Sunday night, and I can sort of show you how a class can be held and what it looks like, just let me know. I can arrange to have you brought in. So just let me know if you want to see like how I hold a class and how it works and what the finessing is like. I'm happy to have you come in and just watch just so you can pick up the tips. So just let me know. That's it.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy to just help on the job. Let everybody see what it looks like.
So Joe wanted to ask about the raise hand feature, but then it sounds like he also had a question. So Joe?
Hey there. So wanted to just say, in terms of tap, one of the things we can also do is offer students a rhythm that we provide them a rhythm, but no feet for it, and say, create a step that matches this rhythm, or similar, some sort of thing, so that they start to have to think about rhythm and how you can create that rhythm instead of simply imitating the shapes and sound that we create. So there's an offer.
Great. Charlie Gilbert. Oh, you're muted. Hold on.
Sorry. There we go. I just wanted to follow up on a little bit of a comment thread that was in the that was in the chat thread. It seems to me that one of the things we've got is a new opportunity here, which is to have schools interact with each other in the virtual classroom space. That is, I don't have to just teach my students, and Amy doesn't just have to teach her. We can open up the classroom across institutions, and that's a big thing to think about. We're all trying to think about surviving in our own ponds right now. But I did want to invite the group to think about places where it might make sense to bring a group together, maybe just as an experiment or as a one-time thing, as the kind of opportunity that would only come up because we're operating in an online environment.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. There was some chat earlier about we'd love to put some of these, the gig economy to work in this way, and yet we're all dealing with budget cuts. So if there is the opportunity where we could pull some of our resources together and have a webinar just like this, but for our students, and bring them together where they can ask questions to industry professionals who need it, and we can make that happen, I think that'd be a really amazing thing.
I'm thinking even student to student as well as a student to professional. So if there were a group of kids in who are students in the Midwest, or in a school in the Midwest, and other people who are in a school in California, they can be together for a little while, and there's probably some interesting learning outcomes that could emerge from that.
Absolutely. Okay, Kelsey, you had your hand up.
Hi. So I'm a private lesson teacher, and I noticed, I was looking through Zoom, and I noticed that there's a waiting room function, which could be really helpful. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but there is a waiting room function, and you can authenticate users. So if you were trying to bring people in, or you wanted to make sure that you were having one-on-one conversations, they could be in the waiting room, and then you could bring certain people in to have a conversation, as far as I understand it.
Okay, cool.
Great. Stephen?
Hey there, I just wanted to piggyback on what Charlie was saying. Rob and I at SDSU, we are trying to create something called SDSU Studio, where we're going to reach out to all of our industry and professional contacts and create like a Inside the Actor studio, but for musical theater professionals. And we're reaching out to those people to create that. And we're going to share that with the group so that anyone can come in and participate in that sort of web Q&A with industry professionals. So keep your eyes out for that.
Great. Okay. There was someone, Kayla was asking if anyone has been dealing with shows being postponed and school cancellation, and how to keep the momentum going with weeks off and no rehearsals. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Ugh. No. I think we're all in different, have different scenarios about what the possibilities are. For us, it's like we might come back and have 1 week before a tech, and we might just do the show as is. I personally don't want to do that. I want to postpone the show and perhaps do it in place of what we plan next spring. The momentum is not good right now anyway, but I told them to stay on top of, we got the show on its feet. They're off book. Stay on top of what they know so far. So it sucks.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of productions are being canceled, and with the potential for this to go on for a long time, I think there's probably going to be more and more cancellations in the coming days. Matthew Stern, you had your hand up. Oh, sorry, Stacy, did you have something else?
I was just going to, while I had the floor, I was just going to go ahead and, plug MTEA for those people who are part of this group and perhaps are not members. This is the kind of thing that we offer, and that we are such a great support system for each other. So if you are interested in being a member and you are not already, please contact me or Stephen Brodebeck, and we can tell you how to do so.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Matthew.
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. BU. I'm at Boston University and Boston Conservatory. Boston University, we have guaranteed casting. So the rehearsal and performance and production process is a part of everybody's curricular grades that they're getting. So our chair came up with this great plan. We're currently scheduled to return to the campus on April 13th. We'll see if that happens. But in the event that we do return to campus, our chairs come up with this great, or the director of the school theater came up with this great plan that it's called AIR 2020, Artistic Intellectual Retreat. And she's basically saying that classes are going to meet online in the window where school is not in session. And then when we come back, rather than having our classes meet as they regularly would, we're just focusing the entire school on production efforts. So basically we'll have, probably 3 weeks left in the semester, assuming we're back April 13th. And we'll treat it like essentially a regional theater rehearsal process, 3 weeks, full-time rehearsals. The directors and creative teams and design teams are being asked to sort of reimagine how they can produce these productions with limited time and support. So like the shops can't be building the fabulous sets that they were planning on. So I'm involved, for example, in a production of the musical Anyone Can Whistle that I was supposed to music direct, that is now being, so we sort of threw around potentially doing either a concert version of that or actually ditching the show and taking our cast of Anyone Could Whistle and doing instead one of the Sondheim reviews, like Marry Me a Little, or putting it together, something a little more simple that can feature each of the students. So it's giving us an opportunity to kind of reimagine our entire production process that I think in the event that we do come back is, it seems like a pretty useful model. So that's all I got.
Great, thank you. Joy?
Hey y'all. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, so I just want to say first of all that what an amazing community this is, and y'all are giving me so much hope. And imagine the crazy, amazing things that are going to come out of this that we never would have thought about before. But the point that I wanted to make was about productions being canceled. I don't know if you guys saw, but on Twitter, Laura Benanti tweeted, if you have a show that was canceled, tweet at me, like make a little video of what you were going to do in the show and tweet at me, and I'll watch it. And then Kristen Anderson Lopez and Bobby Lopez jumped in, and they're doing the same thing. So just something for you to be aware of your kids who are bummed because their shows were canceled. That would be something fun for them to get online and tweet a little video at Laura Benanti and Kristen and Bobby and whoever else is jumping on that bandwagon. I think I saw a bunch of other Broadway people jumping on that too.
Teresa says Lin-Manuel Miranda is doing it too, so that's cool.
Ah, sweet.
Thanks, Joy.
Songs. That's right. Hashtag Sunshine Songs.
Teresa, you had your hand up as well. All right.
Yes, hi. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we just can't see you.
Okay, yes, I know I have my video off. Okay, here we go, I'll start it. I actually teach in high school right now, and our musical was set to be performed at the beginning of May. And we just finished musical rehearsals. I'm music directing, I'm vocally teaching it, but I'm also directing the show. And what we have sort of done, we haven't finished choreography. I just finished teaching all of the music. But as far as choreography goes, I have a faculty choreographer and I also have some student choreographers who are helping as well. And I am in the process of working with them to help them create videos so they can pre-teach choreography from a distance. So they're doing learning videos online, and we're a Google-based district. So they're posting that. I have a Google Classroom for my drama club, so they can post their choreography videos in there. Another resource that I have used quite a bit, and I teach a lot of like community productions as well as the high school stuff. I go into GarageBand and I will put the karaoke track of whatever song it is that I'm trying to teach, and I will hire somebody to come with me. We'll sing the parts, and in GarageBand you can export it. So like I'm only exporting the karaoke track and the soprano line this time, and it's me singing it so that it's a person that they know and a voice that they recognize, so they can sit at home and they can listen to their track. A lot of people say like, oh, I listened to it in the car on the way to work. So it's been this kind of like joke of like me singing with myself, but a lot of my cast members have found that really helpful to help drill their part, especially for community or high school kids who are not as like wonderful of musicians as a lot of our college students are. So it does take a lot of work on my part creating those tracks, but it's been extraordinarily helpful for a lot of my cast members, and I find they come back to rehearsal much better prepared, so I can be more focused on musicianship in my rehearsals as opposed to just plunking notes all the time.
That's great. Yes, and Amy was saying Harmony Helper does that as well. That's another great resource. Okay, we have just a couple minutes left. Tina Marie, you had something.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Robin Lewis at Rider University, because those of you who will be coming back to campus, our seniors and everybody were so disappointed about canceling their shows. And what Robin ended up doing with Trent and Rebecca about the plays is they basically did a invited rehearsal with no anything, and the kids just did whatever they had rehearsed up to this point. And it turned out to be a really magical evening of everybody sort of celebrating what didn't happen. And then knowing that when they come back, they could pick up where they left off. But if, for example, you're coming back and you don't have time to revisit, it was a really magical experience for the seniors especially. And I just wanted to share that.
That's great. Yeah, and some people are talking about that there's a lot of live streaming happening. You should check with your licensing agency. A lot of different licensing agencies are allowing certain shows to be live streamed, and that list is getting updated, so that's a possibility as well. Jonathan, you had something.
Yes. Am I on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. So just a couple things, just as we're starting to wrap this up, that I wanted to throw out from an MTEA admin perspective, which is, first of all, this has been amazing. And I want to thank Alan and Sheri again for all the organization and moderation work on this, because it's been extraordinary being able to facilitate such a large discussion. And thank everybody for participating. We probably didn't answer every question, and that's probably because in a lot of cases we don't have the answers yet. So one thing that I want to encourage us all to do going forward is to continue using the MTEA private group as a place to share additional resources or discoveries that you come about as we all move forward and experiment, and that remember that MTEA can continue to be a resource. Again, I've said this a few times, but you know, if your school has the resources and the options to Skype in and Zoom in freelance artists from New York or from other parts of the country or other parts of the world, you know, it would certainly help the gig economy if schools with resources can help them out. But the other thing that I would say is, and this kind of goes to what Charlie was saying about maybe combining our students together, is we all have skill sets that we bring to the table, and we don't often have the chance to teach each other's students because of the distance. And I look at the silver lining on this, and like, maybe your students aren't going to get to do their production, but maybe instead they're going to get a lesson about the business from Joy Dewing or from Erin Galligan-Sturl or VP Boyle or Sheri Sanders or any one of us. And so we have to, you know, find the silver linings in this and utilize the resources we have among us and be generous with each other. And I'm certainly willing to Skype into anybody's class and talk about branding, or as I said, I'll set up a Meisner group as well. But I would encourage other people to do that, because now that we have those of us that have the extra time on our hands and are stuck at home, it might be a great outlet for us to be creative. And so let's continue the dialogue and continue to help each other out.
Oops, sorry, thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Sorry about that. So in closing, I was just gonna to chime on and say, why don't we get some ideas from our students? Why can't we have them let us know how we can utilize their interests and create something new with whatever app they want to create it in, and share it with the world, and open up our idea of what learning can be in this environment. I think there's a lot of things that they already are doing that they can be creative and teach us a little bit about how to work with them in a digital format and how to make our work reach more people. I mean, it's sort of amazing that 2 days ago we had this idea to have this session, and then all these people decided that they wanted to come and talk about these issues. And it seems to be a little bit healthier and a little more solution-based than some of the freaking out that's been happening online. So let's use each other as resources and breathe through this, and know that it's not going to be perfect, but that we're going to try to come up with some things, and maybe you can teach an old dog new tricks, and we can learn some things as well as we try to move our in-person teaching online for theater. Thank you. I guess I'll just say thank you so much to Jonathan, and especially to Sheri for letting us use her hosting platform. We will be posting this video on musicaltheatereducators.org, as well as on our private Facebook, and it will be a public video, so feel free to share it with your colleagues and other people who couldn't be here. Obviously we don't have all the answers, as Jonathan said, but there's a lot of good ideas and I think ways that we can go about making this better for everybody. Thank you so much. Stay healthy, wash your hands, okay? Have a good one. Thank you.